or should I? Oh, there we go. Sweet. Well, welcome everyone. We have an informal meeting today, and I thought I would bring in a fun prompt. Some of you have seen before. I'm putting in the chat the link to a document. I'd love us all just to pop around, and before we do announcements, just say our name or pronoun, where we are in the world, and which blob you are today and why. And you can see these blobs are numbered if you're not familiar with them. And apparently these blobs can tell you something about yourself psychologically, but I actually haven't read the book on that. I just have used, I don't know that I want to know. So I'm Kristen Poppleton. I'm coming to you from St. Paul, Minnesota, from Climate Generation. And I use she, her pronouns. I'm also on occupied Dakota and Anishinaabe territory. And I come to you today. I don't know. I mean, I can hardly believe it, but I kind of feel like 15, blob 15, which to me is like, yes, like a sort of a positive, like things are going well, but I do still need to hang on to some kind of support. And so far I'm finding support to do that. So yeah, that's what I am. And I'll bop it over to whoever raises their hand first. Or I'll just choose you. Okay, Katie did.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie Boyd, Clean Program Manager, coming to you from just outside of Boulder, Colorado, traditional homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute. And I use she, her pronouns. And I will tell you, I didn't sleep super well last night. So if you asked me an hour ago, I probably would have felt like 5, kind of just wanting to lay down. But I actually feeling now, after a meeting I had this morning, a little bit more like 11, actually. I had a really nice meeting just before this. We have I'll talk a little bit more about this, but we have a new coordinator who's just come on to clean, Gina, who's here today, and we'll introduce her and her role going forward. But I'm feeling a little more energized and like I have a support and somebody to work with. So I'm super excited about that.
I'll go ahead and go next. Hi, I'm Colleen Fisk. I'm with the nonprofit Renewable Energy Alaska Project. I'm their education director, and I am on Dena'ina, Athabascan, Upper Cook Inlet lands, just outside of Wasilla. I'm here in Alaska, and I have to say I also did not sleep very well last night, and so, but it's only 9 a.m. here, so I'm not quite waking up enough yet, so I'm still at the number 5, I think, but that's where I'm at right now.
I can go next. Since I heard the word Wasilla, I've actually been to Wasilla, Colleen. I spent a couple summers in Palmer, Alaska, and I was on a soccer team as a young person with friends of the family that lived up there, and we played against Wasilla, and they were the better team, so they did very well. Also,
as a Palmer High grad, I'm kind of sad to hear that, but that's okay.
Nice. And sleep, since sleep seems to be sort of a sub-theme, I've been working a lot on my sleep. Also, I've historically in the last many years not gotten great sleep, but I'm really working on it, and it's looking better. So I am blob number 6, because that's sort of me kind of climbing up the tree, hopeful, but feel like I'm doing some foundational personal work to get healthy and be strong for the big fight that we're all fighting together. So, and I am from Oakland, California, work for the Community Resources for Science, and I'm on Ohlone land. Original tribe in the Bay Area was the Ohlone for the East Bay.
I raised my hand and I'm working on putting it down. I'm happy to go next. Hi, Wendy Abshire. I use she, her pronouns. I'm joining you today from Arvada, Colorado, which is halfway between Denver and Boulder, a northwest suburb of the greater Denver metro area. This is the traditional lands of the Cheyenne, Ute, and Sioux people, much like Katie. And I am feeling like a 6, a lot of the same reasons, a lot of different reasons. I am not at the bottom of the tree, nowhere near the top. A lot of big challenges this fall, and I'm climbing and committed to keep climbing. So guess that's sort of good news. And there, I noticed 6 has a little bit of a smile, working on keeping that smile there. So that's me.
Well, I'll pop in next. I'm Frank Granshaw, a retired geoscience instructor from Portland, Oregon, which is in Multnomah County. Multnomah is actually one of the bands of the Chinook. So looking at this, I waffled between 10 and that cluster that was 16, 17, and 18. The 10 I liked because it was looks like he's enjoying the view, but boy, you want to watch your step. 16, 17, and 18, one of the cool things about being retired is I get a chance to enjoy my grandkids a little bit more, who only live about a mile from me. And I realize how important that my grandkids are, not only to my general state of mind, but also to the sense of why do this kind of work.
Let's see, I'll go next. So I'm Ingrid Zabel, she, her. I'm with the Paleontological Research Institution in Ithaca, New York. It's the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee and current lands of the Cayuga Nation. And I guess I think I'm at a number 4, kind of feeling good today because I'm working on a grant proposal to funds about half my salary. It's due Friday. And I've been thinking about it for a long time, but today I actually got past the hump of procrastinating and started writing. So I'm feeling good today.
I can jump in and go. I've been, oh, you raised your
Go
hand.
ahead.
But you actually raised your hand.
I did, but I would prefer to be gracious and let you go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm pardon me, I'm sort of messing around with my AirPods trying to get them connect while we talk. But until then, I am Tiffany Formant, she, her pronouns. I'm with NCAR UCAR. I'm the School and Public Programs Manager for the UCAR Center for Science Education here in Boulder, Colorado, near some of you others, and this being the traditional territory of Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute. And I think I'm around a 6 or a 7 blob. I'm sort of, 7's really the one that kind of stuck with me. I'm kind of just hanging on right now. I'm not at the bottom and I'm not at the top. I'm just kind of, I'm just hanging on, trying to kind of keep myself up there, out there somewhere. There's a lot going on right now.
Thank you. So Tiffany, Jim Callahan, climatechangeeducation.org, also the climate education specialist at Lowell School in Washington, D.C. And with that in mind, and the team we have, I would definitely say number 18, and this is the one of just kind of trying to find the right relationship of, one is if 16 and 17 were each to represent 20 kids, that would about get it right. So it's very much the social. I mean, that's just a big part of Climate Club, is it's very social. The kids support each other. They just have a great time together. And then there's just recognizing an educator when you're actually with students and so on. You have to respect or it's very important to respect the safe environment. Not just rules, but just a thing that they're not your kids and you don't touch them, and you treat them with respect, but you're giving them a safe environment and it's very friendly. But I needed somebody who wasn't like, they're on my shoulders or something like that. That wouldn't be appropriate with the kids. It's not necessary. So anyway, we have some great kids who are very happy and very active on climate education and science and action. Thank you.
I can go since I haven't gone yet. My name is Gina Fiorelli. I am the new CLEAN program coordinator, communication coordinator. So I am from Saranac Lake, New York, which is on the Iroquois Six Nation native land. Thank you, Jen. And today I am feeling like number 3 because this is my second week. And I would say Katie actually is number 4 and number 2, trying to lift me up a little bit. So yeah, nice to see you.
I can jump in. This is Jen. So I use she, her pronouns. I work for the Wild Center in Tupper Lake. And I am also calling from the traditional ancestral and contemporary lands of the Haudenosaunee people. I think I might be, I was kind of like, it took me so long to raise my hand because I couldn't decide what blob I was. Too many decisions, Kristen. Somewhere between like a 6 and yeah, I'll say I'm a 6. So I have a smile on my face, but I feel like I'm like kind of hanging on and looking for a little help and support. And I'm definitely getting that too. So I can also, that's why there's a smile on my face. So just climbing up that tree. That's me today. I think Frank has his hand up too.
He does, and I'm on my phone because notice what I'm wearing. That doesn't happen too often. It's been like 18 months. But I'm Frank Niepold. I am in Brookville, Maryland, and I'm on the, so fancy, yes, on the Piscataway Conway lands, occupied lands. I use he, him, and thank you. I even went and got a haircut. Kristen, I think I'm right with you. I wasn't sure which one of that 3, like 15, 16, 17. I think I'm currently 15. I hope I don't have to get on somebody's back because it's hard enough without me on your back. But anyway, that's where I am.
Okay, I'll go. It took me a while to take a look at these blobs. These can't be blobs. They have legs and arms. They have both, so they can't be blobs. I decided that. I'm Devardi. She, her pronouns. I come to you from Wapekute land, from Waconia, Minnesota. I think I'll be between 6 and a 7. There's a lot of unwanted computer troubles today, so I things that I had figured out are not working between Mac and a OneDrive and a Microsoft. So so that makes me between 6 and a 7, but I have slowly figured it out, and it took me only last 5 hours, so that puts a smile on my face.
I think, did everyone go? Awesome, and you've allowed me to snarf down my lunch. Just finished my lunch.
Oh, that was the plan.
That was my plan, my secret plan. Well, now I'd love to open it up just if anyone has announcements. or anything exciting to share? Like, why are you in a suit and tie, Frank?
Well, that's funny you asked that question, Kristen. So Aspen Institute's Climate K-12 initiative, no wait, K-12 Climate Action, sorry, that's right, is having their release of the report. I'll put the link to the report in the chat that's already live on the blog website. But it's exciting. I mean, it has the possibility of doing some big things. So I hope that's true. And so I'll be going to the release and the open air event after. So that's why this silly piece of silk is around my neck. But I have another announcement. If you beg me another moment, thank you. Is the Office of Education at NOAA has released their next solicitation for environmental literacy grants related to community resilience. And they have a geographic focus for priority 1, which is where most people are going to focus. That is mostly the mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and to the Midwest, pretty far Midwest, Northern Plains, I would say. But if you have any questions about that, or we've sent it out in the CLEAN listserv already, but I am expected to help you if you are interested in focusing on climate, which probably is the case with people on the CLEAN call. This is for people recorded or here, so thank you. Anybody who wants to collaborate on this, we have some people on the call who've already gotten grants through that process. But it's a really important grant program. It's one of the only truly climate education focused grant programs currently active. And we've held that through the entire Trump administration and now into the Biden administration. So it's a great program, super competitive, but our job is to help you be more competitive if possible. That's it.
Thanks, Frank. Eric.
Sorry, as long as you're on that, Frank, so clarifying question about the new RFP, that's for the Central and East Coast are the target, but if there were previous grantees, you could partner with them, right?
That's priority 2. And Jen and her team have put together they've already gotten a priority 2. So there's somebody on the call that's already gotten a priority 2. There is no priority 3. So the Wild Center is done. But yeah, absolutely helping another grant who did get priority 1 previously is another way to go. Absolutely. But there is one new little wrinkle that who is getting funded needs to be focused on the states, in one of the states, focused on people in those states. So the audience and the PI and the organizations need to be in the states, but I don't know if that applies to partners. So, you know what I mean? But let's talk details if that's something you're interested in.
Okay, thanks a lot. I'll follow up. I appreciate that. And then just an quick announcement. We're running our fall series of teacher professional development workshops focused on building energy and climate literacy. It's a Bay Area organization, but they're all online. They're Zooms. We've had folks come in from all over the country and even the world potentially. And they're 1 hour long workshops, Thursday afternoons or Saturday mornings. They're free. If any of you are interested we're doing one on a series on mapping and climate change and just sort of looking at environmental justice in particular. So that if that's of interest, I stuck the link to my org in the chat. I'm also looking at running one that's focused on reactivating school gardens, because a lot of school gardens have sat fallow during COVID, and Oakland Unified has a ton of them. So I'm really interested in kind of looking at the climate connections with that. And then the last one is we're looking at applying for funding from the Pisces Foundation. Some of you might be familiar with them. There's sort of it's an RFP that's sort of looking at the state and regional level for sort of building the builders, if you will. It's capacity building for organizations that are doing work in climate education specifically. And they have a heavy focus on equity and inclusion, diversity as well. Environmental justice are really big. So if anyone's interested, potentially going to reach out to, Amy's not on the call today, but I think what 10 Strands is doing at the state level for California would be the kind of thing that Pisces would be looking for. So just some projects. Thanks.
Tiffany.
Looking for how to put my hand down. Here we go. We, on this coming Friday at noon Mountain Time, UCAR is hosting our Trying to Be annual Walter Orr Roberts Distinguished Lecture. And it's with Dr. Marcia McNutt, the president of the National Academy of Sciences. And I'm going to put the link in here. It's going to be live streamed. And her lecture is titled The Misinformation Battle, Challenges and Solutions. So hot topic these days. And we hope that it's going to be a really cool lecture. It's kind of geared towards, obviously, a lot of folks in the science community and at NCAR will be attending, but it's part of our attempts to do more public outreach. So it should be kind of a public friendly lecture. That's our expectation. And as an aside, I apologize for the crappy web page. We're undergoing web migration right now, and the web page looks absolutely awful, but we can't update it until the migration is finished. But the Zoom link is in there, and then the lecture will be followed by a Q&A, and you can enter questions. There's a link to Slido to enter questions. So if anybody's free at 12 p.m. on Friday, Mountain Time, please join us.
Katie, take it away.
Thanks, Kristen. So I just want to let you all know some things that are happening with the CLEAN network coordination here. So Gina Fiorile, as she mentioned, has joined us. We're super excited about it. She's joined on the CLEAN core side. She's going to help with some amount of coordinating the review process and managing website and especially communications and marketing, and has a background in communication, so we're really excited to have her as part of that. And then also we're sort of changing the structure a bit with her coming on, and we don't so we for several years had ESIP fellows that helped to coordinate the CLEAN calls, and we continued to fund Patrick through some funding that Frank gave us on the CLEAN core side, which is was awesome the last couple of years to keep him on. He is graduating, and with Gina coming on, we have sort of different capacities. So we're changing it. We're not really doing like a graduate student fellow as we've done the last few years, and Gina is going to take over some of the CLEAN coordination work. So Patrick was going to be here, but he had something come up, a family issue came up, and so he can't be here today. So we'll schedule another time with him. He'll probably be on the call next week, but then he's gone for several weeks, and next week's a presentation. So we want to give him a good goodbye send off. So we'll do that. We'll try to find a time that he can join a more informal discussion call later in October or November, and we'll do sort of a goodbye with him. But I really wanted to welcome Gina today and let you all know that we're meeting with Patrick tomorrow, and we're working on transition over the next couple of weeks. So by the end of September, Gina's going to kind of take over doing the scheduling of the calls and be a contact person for the CLEAN calls and the presentations and the scheduling of that. So she'll be probably the one sending the email on Tuesday mornings to remind you all of the calls and reaching out to facilitators and presenters to kind of gather their information and remind them and things like that. So we'll change the information in the email and wherever else on we might have it that says you should contact Patrick, probably towards contacting Gina instead, and you'll start seeing emails and things like that from her over the next couple of weeks. So I wanted to we're really excited. Gina has a really awesome background. She's worked with the Wild Center a lot and their youth climate summits, and she's actually she was most recently working with USGS and in her past has been asked, she's attended COP and been asked to speak at the White House and all these amazing things that she's already done. And so we're really excited on the CLEAN team to have her as part of our organization. And Gina, with that, I'll let you say anything you might want to say, but I just everybody, just wanted you all to know that she's part of us and we're really excited about it. So welcome, Gina, and hope that she can start joining these calls more often and become a little bit more ingrained into the CLEAN network here. So I'm glad we had a good turnout and enough people, and thanks for doing all the introductions today, Kristen. So we'll get to know Gina over the next couple weeks and months and continue on from there. And Gina, if you wanted to say anything, you're welcome to. I saw someone else just come in the background, so she might be otherwise occupied right now too. So
sorry about that. I'm really excited to be joining all of you and to be on these calls a little more regularly. Sorry, my grandma just walked in the background. Just work from home things. So yeah, it's really nice to be joining you all a little bit more regularly, and it'll be a transition, but you'll definitely be hearing from me via email and stuff like that. So nice to see you all.
So I just want to build on that a little bit. So, you know, if you don't know Gina, if you haven't gotten to meet her, you know, it's been an interesting ride. I was reflecting back on the last 6 years, Gina, all the amazing places that we've intersected. So it's such a great honor that you've chosen to join the series team and the CLEAN team. So it's fitting, it's appropriate, but it's earned and awesome all at the same time. So thank you for making this move.
You guys are being very kind with the introduction, so thanks. Thanks, Frank.
Nope. All that was true.
I've hung out with Gina and I can reiterate she's awesome.
I definitely can reiterate that she's awesome.
Not everyone has really high expectations. No, I'm kidding. It'll be good. It'll be good.
I think CLEAN's a very welcoming community. So I don't think the expectations are anywhere above what we know that you will be able to do, and we're just excited to have you join us. I will also just mention as part of this that there's been some discussions, or there was a discussion in the leadership board meeting recently, and there may be some changes. We're also excited about Gina coming in and kind of being a you know, more of a go-between between the CLEAN core and the network side. As somebody who works on both, that's the first time we've had that. So we're really hoping that we may be able to kind of do some transitions and think about kind of some of the initiatives that came out of the CLEAN visioning work last spring and how we can kind of move that forward, and thinking about the structure of the board and how we kind of want to keep people engaged in CLEAN and working towards the things that CLEAN is identified as being important. So just so y'all know, we'll update you about that when we can. We're kind of working on it in the background here, and Gina's also still spinning up. So it'll take us a little bit of time, but for those who worked on some of those things over the summer, we're pausing some of the actual work, and we're definitely going to come back to that. And same with the folks who are here from the leadership board. We're continuing the conversation that happened at the leadership board meeting. We're going to reach out to someone about trying to think about a proposal model we can propose and things like that. So we're working on it. We're just a little bit slow with Gina starting up, but I'm really hopeful that we'll have a little bit more of this kind of coordination between the CLEAN core team and the network here, and thinking about kind of making sure everybody can be involved in how we move forward together. So just wanted to update you all on that. We will be working on that with Gina as we move forward here too. So
awesome. Well, I'm gonna jump in. I don't see any hands raised. Couple things to share. Let's see. Our Climate Generations Teach Climate Network series kicks off this week or next week. Well, it kicks off this week with we're trying out a Twitter chat that we're co-hosting with 10 Strands on Friday, and it's I'll put the link in with the social media toolkit, but the focus is this month is on extreme weather, and you have the opportunity to ask an expert to scientists about how climate change and extreme weather are connected. So stay tuned on that. And then our workshop series also features that, and that's coming up in actually, I'll just throw this in the chat here. Yeah, here's all the links that I'm going to talk about. That is starting up this month as well, and will continue through the year, monthly webinars. And I think it's listed the topics for the fall. Our COP, my brain is really starting to be completely subsumed by COP26. My colleague and I have kind of come around to an acceptance phase of risk and you never know right now in the world, but our plan is we will be there with our delegation in Glasgow, Scotland, leaving October 30th. There's a ton of work that's going into this, both in our organization, but also with the US ACE Coalition, which is bringing a group from around the country that are focused on ACE. So if you're interested in following our organization's digest, which goes out daily throughout COP, thanks, Jen. That link is in there. We're featuring each of our delegates weekly now up through COP through their climate stories. So Julieta Rodrigo, who is the youth climate manager at the CLEO Institute, is part of our delegation, and she her story just went up this week, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Jam making in the midst of a tropical storm. And we are doing a COP26 preview through the lens of ACE on October 19th. We will be including members of the ACE delegation that we're bringing, as well as others. Frank will be there, and I haven't talked to Jen, but Jen's going to be there too. Maybe she's actually folks from Jen's delegation will be featured on it, as well as some other folks. So that'll be a nice opportunity to just get a kind of preview on what's happening at the COP. And I think that's all I've got right now on that stuff. Questions, thoughts, any other announcements or things that are on people's minds? All right. So I saw some proposed, oh, go ahead, Jen.
So I just wanted to add on to the COP stuff. I did, we do have a website, the US COP delegation, and if you want to get on our list, you can join. There's a button at the top of that page. So please, even if you're not coming, we're gonna, I think, working on trying to like sort of push out like all the different, where the Wild Center sending a delegation, Climate Gen, Action for the Climate Emergency, the Alliance for Climate Education's new name, and others will be, participating. And then also, of course, like, wanting to elevate the role of ACE and elevating the work of all of our partners. So, please join. And if you're going, please let us know so that we can connect with you. It would really appreciate that. So thank you. Thanks, Kristen. Sorry.
Awesome. So there was some proposed topics, right, Katie? I feel like you sent out. I don't know if those came from somewhere. Frank's got his hand up. Frank.
Try unmuting. That might work. Yeah, really quick. I plugged in a link to a gateway that is still incomplete that Glasgow Quaker Meeting is putting out. And I put this in because one of the things that is on that list is a online youth event taking place on Halloween, 31st of October. So so you can stay tuned in that as they get their program put together, and there'll actually be links in there.
Thanks, Frank.
And yeah, any other announcements, please jump in. but Kristen, to answer your earlier question, I think I might have missed the call where some of these came up. So I don't know if I was on the call for this one, but Patrick has been kind of taking some of the conversations that started over the summer and trying to build them into these informal discussion times that we have, where we're trying to do a presentation and informal discussion sort of every other week to make sure that there's enough time for a CLEAN network to really talk to each other and have discussions. So the one that's on the agenda for today was coping mechanisms for climate educators, and kind of dealing with, what a hard topic this can all be, that came out of an earlier conversation. So that is the one that I know of that was sort of on the agenda for today. If folks want to talk about that, I think we're open to it. But again, it's still an informal call. So I think if people have other agenda items they'd rather address or want to address in as well, that's also open.
Has anyone been doing professional development or seeing professional development that's dealing more with like the socio-emotional learning part of like climate change education? Or I think that's what this question's connected with. And like, what have people been doing with educators or with professionals like ourselves to help us stay grounded? Cheney, it looked like you had your hand up.
Well, I mean, the big topic I'm constantly thinking about right now is professional development. And I mean, I'm so new to this space. I feel like the big need or gap is around really great professional development in schools that is not just around knowledge of climate change, but around social emotional connections and moving towards like a transformative kind of interdisciplinary approach. And I would love to hear what people know about like the organizations and the people that are providing great professional development who like I could learn from, or like I know Eric does that in Climate Gen, and I've been talking with the Cloud Institute, but if there are any other, like I'm just trying to learn as much as possible right now. And so I would love for that to be a topic, and coping mechanisms is definitely part of it. So I'm very interested in talking about professional development in general.
So Kristen, there's a piece of that topic and piece, but there's another side to it, which is what do we do for people like us who are consistently carrying the climate priority already? It's a really, really heavy topic to consistently carry. And so I think that one of the reasons why the CLEAN network has met weekly since 2008 is because of this exact need to have each other's back, to when one of us is down, the other one is able to help. The Noki learning from that NSF grant was
You're coming in and out, Frank.
most. Have that, it's really hard, but I think there's still some, oh, sorry. There you go. Come on. There we go. That should help.
So the key finding from Noki was what you're gonna share.
Yep, and still waiting for it to come in. So is that cohorts matter. People who work, communities of practice matter. But I still think that there's learning that we have to do about how best to support and work through this. Kristen, I remember there was somebody at the Climate Gen and the institute that we partnered on who was focusing on whole body work. And really there's practices that you can do to really help you carry this work in a way that doesn't take its toll on you as your person, your soul, your being, your relationships, your outlooks. So, but we don't have a place to talk about that And I think that what that topic is asking for is a place to really spend some time talking about that.
Yeah, agreed. Katie, did you want to add something?
Yeah, unfortunately can't be super helpful either. I'm similar to Cheney where I feel like we're interested in this, but I just wanted to say that this is something we were just talking about in a different project. Actually, our ELP, our No Illiteracy grant that we have at Ceres to do resilience education. I did some evaluation on that project, and the teachers and students talked about like how this is kind of an overwhelming topic, you know, to think about all these natural hazards increasing in severe weather and some of the, you know, ways we prepare for and become resilient to that, like is the good hopeful side. But I think they still sort of struggled with, you know, just the heaviness of the topic. And so we were talking about for trying to extend that grant, like thinking of different ways of dealing with the social emotional learning and the trauma. And Alicia Christensen on the who also works with us on Clean Core, she's thinking about trying to add some of that into some of our resources online. So it's not PD specifically, but I'm hoping then we may with the ELP grant be able to kind of do more work on the PD side of it. But we'll see how that all shakes out, and that's in the future. So I'm also like Cheney, where if other people have thoughts or ideas or things that they've used, I'm definitely open to hearing about that. And I just wanted to throw out there that teachers are definitely thinking about this, and it's an issue for teachers. And then on Frank's comment, in terms of a lot of us, but also teachers, I mean, anybody really in this field. I was reading something kind of recently, and I think I might have found it online again. It wasn't the article I found, but I think it's the network that they mentioned. But there is also, I think, a burgeoning field of therapists or counselors who kind of think about and help people manage and cope, especially people who work in this field. And as Frank said, like have to kind of have it at the forefront so much. I think there's a lot more of the psychology fields that's picking up on like we need to deal with the mental health aspect that's coming out of, you know, the climate crisis. So I think this was the network that they mentioned that's kind of like climate crisis friendly or knowledgeable network of psychologists that you could try to tap into. So I just thought I'd put that into the chat, and just, yeah, I think this is a really important topic.
Ingrid.
Sure. Well, I'll mention something that's sort of at the intersection between professional development and coping mechanisms. A few years ago, we ran, my colleagues and I at PRI ran a teacher professional development workshop on climate change. And I was having the teachers do an exercise with a website that I curate. It's called the New York Climate Change Science Clearinghouse. And it's a site, it's mainly geared towards like local municipal officials to find maps and data that they need for their work. But there's a lot that teachers can find on it too. And so teachers were exploring different maps. And there was one map in particular showing sea level rise around New York City and Long Island and the extent of flooding from different storms and projections into the future. And one teacher was playing with it, and she stopped and she said, I would be, you know, really nervous about showing this to my students because I think they'd be really upset by it. It's really disturbing what you're seeing on these maps. And it is disturbing. You're seeing these flooded neighborhoods and flooded hospitals and fire stations and schools. But it, she said, I think if I had my students explore a resource like this, I would say something up front, say, you might be upset by this. I guess it's like a trigger warning. And that had not occurred to me before. I'm so used to looking at these things in sort of a dispassionate way, I guess, because I see them so much. So I've started using that now in other teacher development workshops where we show data which are disturbing. I pass on that suggestion from that teacher and say, you know, if you're using this with your students, you might want to talk about ahead of time that it might be upsetting to look at these maps or these data sets. And I thought that was good advice.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, yeah. Eric, you had your hand up next, I think.
Thanks a lot, Kristen. Yeah, just picking up, Ingrid, on what you were saying, I used to teach a climate change class, and I used a Mercator projection map. It was, you know, like 3 by 5 big. And my neighbor artist friend had actually painted over the map. It was a relief map, and it showed sea level rise if all of the, all the Arctic and Antarctic melded, and the world looks completely different. And I learned through that process that I needed to frame that conversation by kind of saying, hey, this is not happening tomorrow. It's not happening next week. It's not happening 5 years, 10 years from now, not happening in their lifetimes. And beyond that, I said, it is also up to us to change this trajectory so that this doesn't happen. So it was really kind of learning how to have that conversation. And one thing I wanted to say about professional development that we've been trying a lot of, and it has to do with this sort of overall philosophy of learner-centered activities and student-centered type of activities, where you have the classic come in and dump a bunch of information on your participants and whatever audience you have, is really not, I think, the best approach. It's really about listening, even having the students get involved with the phenomena and an exploration first, and seeing what that tells you about the group so that you can then move forward. So that's one thing. And then Cheney and I were in a meeting with the Oakland ad hoc Oakland group yesterday, and the science manager said teachers need PD right now because of COVID. Coping with that alone, they just need PD, but certainly with climate change. So what we're trying to build into a lot of our PDs now is time for teachers to really roundtable discuss things, really just talk to each other, support each other, share best practice, share concerns. Another thing that I think has been useful are pre-assessments, tools where probing questions for your audience that you might send out, say they register for an online Zoom a week ahead. What are your top 5 concerns? What are you most interested in learning about, so that you can really cater your presentation to that group, that audience, and those concerns. And I did a workshop with Cheney had helped organize a conference out in New York, and that was the approach. They had done an assessment already, the student group in New York. Sorry, Cheney, I'm mixing events. There were 2 things in New York, but it was the one that I followed up with, I think, or informed the talk that we did at your event. But anyway, it was useful because I had all the student data. I knew what the students were most concerned with, because I had those questions answered. So it really allowed me to shape and focus the presentation on them, and not so much the classic, this is climate change, this is why it's happening, these are the impacts, this is why you should. But stepping back and going, hey, you all said this, and I even put their quotes, statements within the presentation, so that it was really their voices on the screen first. So I think that kind of just another thought on how to approach the PD and supporting. And then certainly what Frank said about this network has been invaluable for me personally in the last year, just to get to know all of you over Zoom and just have these conversations and reconnect with old colleagues like Jim has been great.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate too. I mean, I think one of the gifts of NGSS, of the science standards, is this focus on phenomena-based learning, and how that, when you're talking with science teacher, I mean, we don't need to look at modeling of sea level rise to know that climate change is happening right now, and it's a local issue. And so starting from things students are already seeing, so they're already afraid, and by learning more, I mean, knowledge is power, and knowledge, I mean, all the things you can say about knowledge, but understanding what is happening and what we can do about it. And I know also, as far as science classrooms, it's always difficult to say, well, we need to do it this way. But I mean, the focus really should be like 70% solutions, 30% impacts and problem when we're talking about it. But that you can say that, but there's also just certain things you have to teach about in a science classroom. One thing that I mean, obviously interdisciplinary learning is the ideal, but our system is not set up to do that well right now. But I am just have been a real just fan of climate, the power of using climate fiction and as an opportunity to think about these things too, and for students to sort of reimagine their world. And I know there's a great article, I'll see if I can find it, written a couple of years back, I think in Orion magazine, which is like a culture environment, by David Sobel, who's an old school environmental ed dude. and it was talking about how books like The Hunger Games, these sort of dark apocalyptic fiction that were like, why would I ever have my kids, students read this stuff, is actually really powerful because students actually see themselves in these characters. Like, we cannot shield them from this fear, and they're feeling it too. And by reading about these characters and what their ability, like their agency and their like ability to do things. Did you find it, Cheney? Is that the one or a different one? But like, it's actually a really powerful tool and opportunity for them to like see themselves in these characters, and like, and I also am a firm believer that fiction belongs in science classrooms, because you can talk about what's real and what's not real and that as well. So those are things. As far as teachers, I mean, our institutes have constantly like feedback is like, I feel like I've joined, it's like what we talked about, cohorts, networks, being part of a community of support, knowing that there's support out there, knowing that there's someone that can help them, knowing that there's other teachers and peers that are doing the work, all that stuff, obviously, like, I think is really important and super difficult to do, but like sustaining the connection beyond like our professional, professional development isn't like professional development. Professional development is like, okay, we've initiated our relationship. How can we continue to support each other and like go forward? So I think Jim's hand was up next.
Yeah, great, thanks. And I'll get my hand down in a second. So I think in some ways the things both our teachers and our students are dealing with might be what comes up as next levels or next steps that happen on things. With like the students you see me behind me who are very active on climate change and able to do it in a way that has a national impact, we're not really dealing with the depression and the grief that happens. I mean, we're dealing with it, but it's not overwhelmingly. We're doing it, but it comes back up in a different way. What we're still dealing with, what we deal with is the teachers have to deal with the fact some of them are putting in hundreds of hours of volunteer time in order to make this happen. And then they look around and they see our society does not support teachers who do this. There's no support. They're doing it because they believe in it. There's not recognition. There's no money. And so they look around and they see the other teachers, the vast majority of other teachers saying, well, how come I put 2-3 hours into this? Tell me what I need to do. I'm not going to do anything more than I have to. And that's not blaming the teachers because they're already pressured to do a ton of things. But then, so what I'm getting at is then the grief or the depression comes up of you feel like you're the only one. The teachers are doing all this stuff. The kids are doing stuff. And it's like society doesn't give a damn. Now, we end up, most of us are good as like say, well, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to do it for the kids. We're going to do it for the bears. We're going to do it for all the other stuff. And hopefully it cracks open and goes on things. But I mean, I think that's a lot of the thing of when people have the opportunity to do things where we need to crack open that people need to just get out and do it. And hopefully we raise the money and hopefully there's the grants. But some of us, doesn't have to be a lot of us, need to move ahead and show that it can be done. And I think that's the thing where many of us are going to be facing, because that doesn't go away. In my long history, I went to Cal Berkeley and fought apartheid and did everything. And that's one thing I was taught really early as a student teacher. As a student, if you're going to be doing a social activist, you have to deal with the fact that the vast majority of people are going to sit on their hands and do nothing. And you just accept that and go. And you get rid of apartheid, and you help to keep the planet from going nuclear war. And that's just what sustains you. But anyway, that's a lot what we've got going on right now. The kids are moving. Like the kids behind me, they're incredible. Thank you.
Frank, did you have your hand up? Can you give it?
Yeah, I do.
A 2 minute.
Yep. I can give a 1 minute. I think what's one, I've shared this before. I totally appreciate your point, Jim, but I'm also starting to see the climate nihilism come in. And I've been dealing with my niece, and she's got a climate anxiety journal, and she's been really, really, really down for a while. But there's an interesting thing between like, I accept that that's where I am, and I use it to fuel my action. And there are times when it's going back and forth, but I definitely think there's a psychological element here with our students and our learners and ourselves that we have got to add into our toolbox to deal with this. And it's an important area. It's emerged over the summer for me, like really up front, not personally, but in my family. So I think there's definitely something there that is an area where we together need to really understand how to be skillful, understanding, and yet, lead to empowerment ultimately. That's it.
Fun and interesting. I feel like this is the kind of discussion you just like start getting into, and there's so much more to go. Well, you're all doing really important, good work.
I have a friend who's been telling me this is a good thing to tell people. I see you and you're doing a good job.
Plus, plus, plus. Snaps to that. Well, I appreciate always coming to these. I don't get to enough clean calls, so it's so good seeing you all. And let's all follow up with each other about the various conversations we want to have about the cool things we're all doing. And yeah, take care.
Hey, I won't be on next week, so if that ends up being one of our goodbyes to Patrick, please someone specifically say I'm shouting out and thanking him for all his work.
Thanks, Wendy. We're going to try and do it later than that because there's a presentation. So, but
okay,
I will definitely get the message to him if you're not on whatever call we do it on.
Okay,
cool. All righty.
Be well. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Kristen.